Hey everybody, this is HD. Welcome back. It's time for another HD broadcast. It's been a couple of days. I've been out over the weekend, and before this game actually starts, I just wanted to say absolutely terrible disaster what just happened out in Japan, northeast Japan, with the earthquake. I think it was a 9.1 and then the ensuing tsunami. That was absolutely terrible, and I was actually out for the entire weekend, so I wasn't able to cast, but I was just kind of staring glued to my screen at the disaster that was unfolding before my eyes. So I just wanted to say thoughts and prayers going out to them. Hopefully all you guys out there, if you guys have any relatives out there, you get some good word back, some good news. And yeah, it's gonna be time to get back to casting Starcraft games. This is actually going to be a first-person view game of PainUser playing. He's playing on his account, and this was when he was over at my house a couple of days ago and we were doing some dual commentaries. He went ahead and played a couple ladder games, and I had this game recorded and I wanted to cast it. I just never had the time to do it. So here it is. It is going to be PainUser playing against Murgle, and it is going to be a Terran versus Zerg. So I hope you guys are all going to stay tuned for this game. This is, once again, first-person view. And of course, PainUser, one of the best Terran players out in North America right now. I believe he is ranked in top 200. I know that he took a break from Starcraft for a while just to kind of cool down a little bit, and then he's just recently started to hop back on, and I know he's starting to work his ranks back up. Right now, he's currently, I believe, Masters rank #1 or #2. It's one or the other. He's definitely really high up there, so it's always a pleasure to be able to watch a very good player play. And obviously I'm going to be here casting him as it looks like he's going to be throwing down a command center very early CC. So I was at my house, he was at my house, and I was sitting on my bed and I was watching him play, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? You don't have a barracks or anything? And he's like, dude, I'm gonna go for a command center. I'm gonna build it right here, right now. And obviously, this is kind of the reverse spectrum. There's two polarized ends of cheesing. There's the kind of aggressive cheese, and then there's the eco cheese. And not a lot of players use the eco cheese. And when I say eco cheese, I basically mean economy cheese. You know, building a command center right away. That obviously leaves you extremely vulnerable to any kind of early Zerg rush. And Murgle is, of course, a Zerg player. So any kind of a 6 pool is obviously GG. 9 pool, even 10 pool. 14 pool you can even have a little bit of trouble, and this build really only works if your opponent goes for a 14 hatch. So it's a very risky opening. It's obviously cheesy because you can lose to over half the possible builds that a Zerg player can do. But if your opponent doesn't go for any kind of an early aggressive opening, then you actually have a very big advantage going for this early command center. So you guys can see right now, PainUser throwing up his barracks at the front. This is on the new map Shattered Temple, and I think it's kind of funny that Blizzard decided to just remake Lost Temple and just called it Shattered Temple, and all they really did was just destroy the high ground overlooking the natural. But it is, as a result, a much more balanced map in my opinion, especially for Zerg versus Terran. So we probably won't be seeing, in fact, I know for a fact we won't be seeing any kind of drop antics, any kind of a Thor drop or anything like that, because there's just no ledge to utilize. So you guys can see PainUser has scouted the bottom. He's seen that Murgle has spawned down on the bottom side, and unfortunately for PainUser, it looks like Murgle did not go for an early hatchery. His SCV just kind of glanced by the natural. If you guys can see on that mini-map, it did not see a hatchery going up there. So PainUser a little concerned now, gonna throw up a bunker, and we really like the positioning right there of that bunker. That pretty much prevents any kind of units from running right into the main, along with the nice placement of the barracks. I really like the placement of those barracks because it obviously makes this kind of an arcing wall, which makes it very difficult for Zerg units to kind of penetrate and get inside. So right now, this is the most tense moment for PainUser. In fact, I remember he was sitting on my chair and you could kind of see sweat starting to form on his forehead, because this is the most tense moment. If you're going for this kind of eco cheese, this is around the time when the Zerg player is going to scout it, and he's going to realize, holy crap, what is this Terran doing? He's gone for an early command center. I've got to bust it down by going for Baneling bust, going for a Roach bust. Obviously, there's a couple of possibilities a Zerg player can do, or the Zerg player can try to grab an early third. But if I was a Zerg, which I am, if I was a Zerg playing against this build, I would probably try to bust these doors down and focus on that weak point, that supply depot between the buildings. So here we go. It looks like Murgle, realizing that he scouted this early command center, he's bringing in a pretty large army of roaches, and when you're just only got Marines, this is a very difficult situation. Per roach and per marine, a marine absolutely is toasted by a Roach. A Roach is just so much more powerful. So you guys can see right now, PainUser is trying to get a tech lab down because he realizes he needs Marauders. And this is the most tense situation of all. If he cannot get any Marauders out, then his Marines are probably not going to be able to deal with this large army of Roaches, and you got to expect more Roaches to come on the way soon. So it's a very micro intense moment right now as PainUser is just trying to keep that supply depot alive. He's obviously falling his Marines back into the bunker, and he's trying to keep his Marines alive for as long as possible. Remember, a Marine even at low HP still does the same damage as a Marine at high HP. So right now PainUser is just trying to keep as many Marines as he can possibly keep alive, and right now he is trying to get a Marauder out, and wisely the Zerg player Murgle is trying to kill off that tech lab, realizing that the Marauder is absolutely the hard counter to the Roach. Any Marauders that come out right now can just put a stop to this rush with a hard iron foot, and it looks like the Marauder finally popping out, it did come out in time, is going to negate this rush. So PainUser able to hold on, a very, very close battle, and you guys can kind of see that entire scenario, that entire skirmish was really balanced on a knife's edge. If PainUser had lost even one or two Marines, then he could have lost his natural expansion, and obviously Murgle could have busted that down if he just had a couple more Roaches. But thanks to the nice positioning of the buildings at the front for PainUser, and of course thanks to nice micro, it looks like he's going to be able to hold on to his front door, and this eco cheese is seemingly going to work here. He's gone for an early command center, he's got a ton of economy racked up, and unless Murgle has a third expansion coming up now, which is highly doubtful. You have to remember that Murgle went for this all-out kind of Roach bust. He tried to kill the Terran player, he tried to bring down the natural. It just didn't work out. You realize that the Zerg player just doesn't have a third expansion at this point in the game, and he's very, very far behind. PainUser here is going to capitalize on that by just switching into macro gear, just start to pump out a ton of units, get his Marines and Marauders rolling out, and eventually the plan obviously is to push out and try to end this game by capitalizing on this early economic advantage. So if you guys are Terran players right now, you guys are watching this, you guys might be thinking, oh, this is an awesome build. I'm going to start opening up with Command Center all the time. But you have to remember that this only works on certain maps, and it's obviously still very risky. It works on this map because it's a 4-player map. Your opponent is less likely to scout you right away. It's a very wide open map. And it's obviously, you know, sometimes you can use these kind of risky strategies to great advantage, but you don't want to use this all the time. This early Command Center build, obviously very, very dangerous, and it looks like Murgle still has a pretty large army at the center. You guys can see a ton of Roaches, a ton of Lings, and this Zerg player is no newbie. He is a very, very high Masters rank player as well. I would expect top 5, probably top 3 Masters. So this is an extremely high ranked Terran versus Zerg, 3,000 plus for both players. We can see right now, PainUser is trying to get, I believe that is a starport that's coming down. I'd be very surprised if that wasn't. I would honestly expect right now starport transitioning into dropships. The best possible transition in from 2-base Terran is to get those dropships out and then start to mobilize your army, go around the backside, and you guys can see that this map, they have spawned right next to each other by air, so you can kind of bring in drop parties of Marines and Marauders, pick off the Zerg technology, pick off the Zerg drones. You can even just bring out dropships to help heal your Marines and Marauders. So here we go. It looks like PainUser has decided now's the time to push out, and of course, like all good players, while pushing, building a new command center, getting that economy going, and always worrying about the macro back at home. So we can see right here, it looks like PainUser starting to push out. The Zerg army still has quite a pretty large army of Roaches, and that's a ton of Banelings being morphed right now on the creep. And the one thing you gotta be careful as a Zerg player, as a Terran player right now, is engaging on the creep, because those Speedlings are gonna surround you when they have that much speed bonus, and all that's left of that army now is the Marines. The stim now fading, forcing PainUser to re-stim, and he will have to fall back. I don't think he's going to be able to take that battle at the center. It's going to be very, very close. More Banelings morphing out. PainUser always as any good Terran player would do, or any good Starcraft player, focusing on macro back at home while microing these troops abroad. It looks like Murgle just barely will be able to hold on here and will be able to push back PainUser's push. So very nice play by our Zerg player, able to hold off that attack. And back over home, this is when I actually realized, hey, PainUser, there's a little creep right there on the gold expansion. So I was like, dude, I think he's got the gold expo, and so PainUser dropped a scan. And luckily for him, there wasn't any drones there yet. So this Zerg player is very, very good, able to get that third expansion up, but he still doesn't have saturation there. So PainUser was still pretty decently ahead in this game. If there had been any drones at that gold, I would have said, wow, this Zerg player is amazing. He was able to transition from pretty much an all-in roach attack into a gold expansion, have all those drones still mining. But thankfully for Taylor, aka PainUser, there wasn't any drones there. And now PainUser is just kind of focusing on expanding to the top island, which I guess now it's not really an island anymore, it's just a ramp with rocks. So Blizzard has definitely changed the map quite a bit, but PainUser is focusing now on expanding to the top left side, and all the while you guys can see he did load up a couple of dropships. There are 2 dropships currently moving down to the bottom left. This Zerg player Murgle pooping out some creep at the top left hand side, which is very smart. Obviously this prevents the command center from landing down until you take out that Overlord. And here we go, PainUser dropping off his Marines and Marauders right into the Zerg main. And it looks like there's going to be a couple of skirmishes at the center of the map all the while, but PainUser may be able to take out some very important buildings right here, especially the Baneling Nest, one of the most vital buildings for the Zerg player. And it is going to get taken down. It looks like one Infestor getting his fungal growth off, and that is very, very good. You don't often see a Zerg player getting Infestors these days in ZVT, simply because it's such a hard unit to control. But when you get to that high level, when you get to top Masters, when you get to top 200, you will start to see Infestors being used much more often. And we can see right there, the Infestor almost saving the Zerg player from losing his Baneling's Nest, almost forcing PainUser to retreat his Marines and Marauders into the dropships, but PainUser decided, okay, I'm just going to sacrifice my units, take out that Baneling's Nest, and it's worth it. It's worth it because it's going to prevent any Banelings from being morphed for about the next minute or so, and that can be absolutely vital. So we may see PainUser make some kind of an attack during these precious moments while the Baneling's Nest is down, and it looks like right now he's just kind of dropping scans, he's exploring the map with Comsat, utilizing every Terran advantage to see exactly where the Zerg player has expanded. Does the Zerg player have a 4th expansion yet? Because right now it is 3 base to 3 base. As far as Taylor and I know, it is just, right now it's pretty much even. Maybe the Terran player could be considered a little bit ahead. So it looks like he's still working on that macro, throwing up a ton of missile turrets, and this is all precautionary, just throwing up missile turrets to be sure in case any Mutalists surprise him. But honestly, at this point, we can expect with about 80% accuracy that there isn't going to be any Mutalists. And why? Because we saw Infestors, and Infestors eat up a huge chunk of gas for Zerg. And so by seeing those Infestors, by seeing all these Infestors going around the map, we can tell that there probably isn't going to be any Mutalists. I do want to say right now, Murgle is just doing great with his fungal growths, whittling down the Terran army. And if it wasn't for the dropships, these Marines and Marauders would be very, very weakened right now by the constant fungal growth, just throwing up and vomiting on the Terran army. And here we go, once again another attack. Notice PainUser pulling his Marines and Marauders away for as long as possible until the fungal growth finally locks PainUser in place and does not allow him to run away. But it looks like PainUser was able to just destroy that army. And unfortunately for our Zerg player, he just didn't have any Banelings in that attack. Finally now starting to morph a couple of Banelings, but you guys can see how effective moving in a dropship into the Zerg base is, picking off one of the main tech buildings in ZVT, which is the Baneling's Nest, and now there's just no Banelings to count for whatsoever, and it really forced Murgle to engage when he didn't have the composition he needed to deal with the large Marine and Marauder armies. So it looks like PainUser is going to win this game. Murgle put up a pretty valiant effort, but PainUser going for the eco cheese seems to have worked out pretty well. There's just a huge depth of siege tanks now overlooking the natural and the third, and that pretty much spells certain disaster for our Zerg. So Murgle GG's, and PainUser takes it away, and that is going to be a first-person view commentary of PainUser. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I guess this is kind of supplement for the weekly ladder. I have changed it now. It was daily ladder, but I realized I want to kind of settle back a little bit and do a little bit less of ladders and more pro games. So I guess that's going to be this week's ladder game. And what a treat. We actually got to see PainUser play in first person view, and that was a very, very good Terran versus Zerg. So I hope you guys enjoyed that broadcast. This is HD, gonna be signing out. Once again, thoughts and prayers going out to all the families and friends affected by the Japanese disaster. And we're gonna have an SGL tournament series coming up next. It is going to be Root versus Evil Geniuses, and it is going to be a team-oriented game. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that. HD signing out.